Hello, everybody. Welcome in to the Lakers Collective. The Lakers on a bit of a win streak here, though nobody's getting too excited because they haven't been playing the best competition. Have a much tougher matchup tonight against the San Antonio Spurs. We did just get some injury news coming out right before we went live that LeBron James is questionable for this one. We'll talk about that game. We'll talk about this 3-0 weekend for the Los Angeles Lakers. We'll also talk a little bit about whether or not what the Lakers have been doing lately, and that's winning basketball games, is going to translate when they do play the more difficult teams. Happy to see y'all here coming in from the YouTube channel. If you haven't done so yet, please make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on those notifications. I'm Trevor Lane. He's Jason Timpf, Jovan Buha. Guys, happy to see y'all here. Jovan, I know you're only really partially here. Jovan is fighting through illness right now to be here. Questionable on the injury report, but Jovan said, nope, go ahead. Put me in, coach. I'm still here for the show.
This is my flu game. I'm playing through the flu right now, but happy to see you guys. Happy to be here and ready to get into it.
Showing some remarkable toughness over there in Los Angeles. It's good to see you boys. It's been a little bit of a longer break than usual since we didn't go on Monday, but we got a bonus Laker win to cover as a result. And I know, look, I totally understand Trevor throwing the water on the parade there at the beginning, because that's just the position the Lakers have put us in terms of believing anything they accomplish. But I also think they've been playing some better basketball, and I'm excited to get into that today.
Well, yeah, let's dive right in there. The Lakers 3-0, 2 wins over the Memphis Grizzlies, and then a win over the New Orleans Pelicans. Again, not the toughest competition out there. And by the way, I appreciate, I know it's been a little bit of a longer break. I was doing a little bit of traveling, spending a little bit of time with family, so I appreciate you guys being flexible on the schedule with that. But Jason, we'll start with you. The Lakers over this stretch, I've seen a lot of fans take this stance. What they did over the last 3 games needs to be completely dismissed. It does not count for anything. It does not show us anything because they were not playing top tier competition. Is that the way we should approach this? And the Lakers have to prove it against better teams? Or do we have some things that might be something that can translate over to some tougher games?
So I think it's completely reasonable for any fan to have a certain amount of skepticism regarding the quality of competition. You played 5 games since Christmas, that embarrassing Christmas Day performance. You played 4 bad teams, you beat them all. And you played 1 good team and you got your butt kicked again. So there's a certain amount of that's going to be the trend they have to buck. And as you zoom out from the season, there's a really positive way to look at it, which is the Lakers have the 4th best record in the entire NBA today, which blows my mind considering how bad they've looked for the last few weeks. But to have that record, you dig into it a little bit, 16-3 against below 500 teams, 7-8 against teams that are 500 or better. That's the dynamic that they're going to have to eventually flip, at least to earn any sort of credibility or cachet with fans, believing in them as a championship threat. I think there's 2 different angles to look at in terms of the way they've improved. First of all, I want to be very consistent with this. I have talked for a long time about how I typically look at the stars first, in addition to them just being the most equipped to solve teams' problems. I also think there's a trickle-down effect where, if a superstar comes out in a game and is clearly the best player on the floor, his team tends to believe more in their chances to win the game. It kind of tends to lead to more possession-to-possession consistency. And there's a different dynamic that takes place when your stars don't have it that can lead to a trickle-down in a negative way, where teams kind of relax in some factors because they don't believe in their ability to win the game. I thought the second half against Memphis on Sunday and the second half last night against New Orleans were 2 of Luka's better halves that he's played in the last few months. And he was 6 for 9 from 3 in those 2 halves. And he only had 4 turnovers in those 2 halves. One of the big things we've been talking about on this show is the turnovers and the missed step back threes at the top of the key have been kind of net negative plays for the Lakers because they tend to lead to these transition runouts. In both of their late game runs in each of those 2 games, Luka's been fantastic. And then LeBron, similarly, since Christmas Day, I was very critical of him on Christmas Day for one of his worst defense and rebounding performances of the season. I think LeBron in the last 5 games has been pretty darn good in the margins in terms of what he's doing, carrying his weight as a dirty work player defensively and on the glass. And so your 2 superstars play a lot better. it trickles down. There's a lot of different things they're doing defensively that look better. They're grabbing over 71% of opponents' misses right now. That's much better than they had been performing in the previous couple of weeks. So just a lot of things trending in the right direction. The key is to continue to tie those things together and have it translate to better competition, which will eventually come down the line. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the Spurs game is their only above 500 team they play for the next couple of weeks. So they've got a lot of ground here to practice some stuff and try to build some better habits.
Yeah, I think it's important. Like, you can only play the team that's in front of you. And one of my big keys to every season, for every team really, is you have to beat the teams you're supposed to beat. And the Lakers have done a pretty good job of that. I don't think they should be faulted for beating those teams. The challenge comes in when people say, well, they didn't beat them by enough. They weren't dominant enough. And then they're losing to the bad teams. But I do think in terms of especially getting into a rhythm with LeBron and Luka coming together, that can be important. We talk about it in the NFL all the time with get right games. If the Lakers have a few get-right games on their schedule, as long as they take advantage of them and they stack as many wins as they can, and they start to get to more of a place of cohesiveness across their roster with LeBron and Luka now running the show for the foreseeable future, all the way up until probably the All-Star break is probably when we're talking about Austin Reeves coming back. So if you can take advantage of these games on your schedule and you do, great. I don't think you should necessarily penalize the Lakers for doing those things and winning those games. In terms of the rebounding that you just mentioned there, Jason, they have done a good job on the glass. They're giving up. They are 12th in the NBA when it comes to opponents' offensive rebound percentage on the season. They've been doing a good job on the defensive glass. DeAndre Ayton got back into double figures last night, rebounding the basketball. It's going to be a key certainly tonight as well. It's one of the things that they have been kind of sneakily solid at, has been rebounding the basketball this season. So that's something that's going to have to continue during this stretch. But you also mentioned Luka. It helps when he can hit threes falling down, fading away. All I could say is it seems to really help when the crowd gets on him. They had some things to say to him as he was shooting that shot, and then he drains it and it has some comments right back, and maybe some non-repeatable phrases that Luka used. So I would encourage road fans to continue to poke the bear, because good things do tend to happen. Jovan, where are you at with the Lakers on this 3-0 stretch? Is this all just fool's gold, or is this a sign that things are maybe coming together a bit?
It's not fool's gold. I think they are playing better. At the same time, I still think they have to show it against better competition, because I think when we look at, yes, the standings are what the standings are, but 2 days ago they were 5th in the West, and 3 days ago they were 3rd in the West. So just based on, they didn't even play and they dropped from 3rd to 5th a couple days ago just because Denver and Houston won. So right now the jockeying in the West is basically 2 to 5. Right now is all separated by 1 loss and 2 to 3 wins, depending on the teams there. So on a nightly basis, they could be the 2 seed. They could, if they beat San Antonio tonight, they're going to be the 2 seed. If they lose, they drop all the way to 5. So that just shows you right now the variance that they're dealing with in terms of the standing. So I personally don't want to make too much of that. I think right now, their statistical profile has indicated they are closer to probably being the 5th best team in the West. I mean, they have the 8th best point differential, 8th best net rating. Of those top 5 teams, they're the only team that is below 500 against 500 and better teams. All those other teams are at least 2 games above 500 against 500 or better teams or better. Also, I think kind of note, something I don't think we've touched on yet is the Lakers' superpower against the top teams in the West is supposed to be their offense, right? Well, all 4 of those teams also have better offensive ratings than the Lakers. The Lakers are 7th. The other 4 teams are all top 6. So it's even their theoretical superpower against those teams have been better offensively up to this point in the season. So I say all that to say, there's still a prove-it element here for me with LA of they're not playing Memphis in round 1. They're not playing New Orleans in round 1. They are playing San Antonio potentially in round 1, or Denver, or Houston, or Minnesota, or Phoenix. They have to show they could beat those teams consistently. So, yes, it's been nice to see the above 500 or the below 500 success, but there's still an element of I want to see them beat better competition longer term. With all that said, I think there's been 2 key developments over the stretch here. One, the LeBron-Luka 2-man game has really made some significant, both the literal 2-man game of them running side pick and roll with like empty corner pick and roll or stack actions, and just the two-man synergy between those two guys has been something to behold. So I think that has been impressive, and I think that is a notable thing that can translate to better competition, and it's been nice to see them spam some of those actions. So that's a big thing that I think is notable and can translate to better teams. The other thing is we've kind of gotten a preview with Austin being out and with Rui being out of what a more Banshee-led rotation looks like. More defense, more energy, more hustle. And I think there's been some strides defensively and with the rebounding and just with the overall effort. Now, the flip side is they can also go through these offensive lulls where they're going 3 for 17 in the first half on threes against New Orleans. And teams have been really selling out against Luka, trapping him, blitzing him, and saying, we don't think Marcus and Jake and Vando can beat us. And they've been right to a degree at times. So I think like that is something, though, that I think is a positive, because if the Lakers can make the right move or two and add in a more balanced two-way player, and like that guy can actually make them pay, as we saw Jake do in the Memphis games, like that I think is a wrinkle that they haven't quite had consistently throughout the season, as they've leaned into more of an offensive starting group, and like the offensive starters all playing like 30 plus minutes when healthy. So I've liked the balance in the rotation a little bit more. They are running out of bodies. Like when we get into the Dalton Connect, Nick Smith Jr. part of the rotation, they clearly are. It's just like those guys should not be playing rotation minutes right now. But I think getting Gabe back, we'll see what happens with LeBron tonight. But I think like the LeBron-Luka two-man game and the Banshees and like what that looks like with those guys elevated, I've been really impressed with that.
I think now you brought up Jake LaRavia. Part of it is, man, he loves playing against the Memphis Grizzlies, his former team that infamously did not pick up his player option. But I do think a lot of what we've been talking about on here in terms of the starting lineup, needing one of the Banshees, whether it's Smart or LaRavia or even Vando in the starting lineup, has been proven correct in terms of you need another defensive piece out there on the floor. And in fact, having two defensive pieces has looked pretty good with Smart and LaRavia out there. It's getting the guys on the floor that are going to do all the other things. LaRavia is going to, hustle and fling himself into the first row to save a ball when the game's already been decided and make that kind of play. We know Marcus Smart is going to be flying all over the court. Hopefully he's okay. I mean, he did not pop up in the injury report, but tough shot to his ribs at the end of the game last night. But you need those guys that are going to make those kind of hustle plays. And why, I don't want to reignite the starting lineup conversation that we've had so often, but I think if anything, I'm more confident than ever that when Rui Hachimura returns, he should not return to his starting role.
Yeah, I think it's really. I think it's not to.
You said it, not me. That's my go-to line.
I don't like when you look at the improvement. I think there's a couple of specific areas defensively where the Lakers had to improve. Basically, effort, execution, and talent. Right, and so just the simple fact of like in this recent run, Jared Vanderbilt in his last 9 games is getting 24 minutes per game. That's 24 minutes of a 6'8", 6'9" athlete that literally was not in the rotation earlier in the season. To, obviously with Austin being out, JJ's had this carte blanche to put 2 of his better defenders in the starting lineup, with him and Rui out, I should say. And so now you've got Marcus and Jake in there. I'm with you guys. I think when Rui comes back, if he's not coming off the bench, I think that's pretty much an indefensible decision at this point. The Luka, LeBron, LaRavia, Smart, Ayton lineup has been awesome so far. I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but they're massive net, double-digit positive net to start the season. I'll look it up here in a minute. But those guys are playing really well. So there's a talent piece. There's to put it in a very simple way, there are more Laker lineups with more defensive talent on the floor now than there were at earlier points in the season, where it was like offense only starting group and then still some of your best defenders not on the floor in your bench groups, right? The second piece of it is the effort piece. This thing comes to the stars. I thought Luka and LeBron really kind of let go of the rope a couple weeks ago. And I think having those two guys just engaged, it kind of trickles down. And that's an embarrassment piece. It's kind of like what happened in the Miami game last year. Sometimes you just get embarrassed so bad that it's a galvanizing force. I thought Christmas Day was kind of like that. And then the third piece of it is just game plan execution. I know it doesn't seem like much because it's so easy to focus on the talent and the personnel. But like, I'd argue this is the most important piece. Like, if you actually get back in transition every single time, stop man and or stop ball, stop the rim. If you in the half court follow your defensive game plan to a T in terms of like being on time, on help when teams drive, and boxing out, crackdown, rebounding off of the wing, specific game plan discipline with like shooters off the ball. This guy we're closing out short on. This guy we're closing out and chasing him off the line like he's a laser. If you follow all of those things, you can be a mediocre defense even with bad personnel. And so all three of those areas, I think we've seen substantial improvement over this stretch. And the whole point is like, so take San Antonio tonight, for example, we know what's going to happen. We know what Steph Castle and Dylan Harper and De'Aaron Fox are going to do. They're going to pick on Laker wings and try to beat them off the dribble. And when that happens, if the Lakers are on time with their help, they'll be forced to throw kick-out passes. The Lakers might be able to tilt the game plan towards lesser shooters. If they're not on time, it's going to be fouls and layups. Mm-hmm. And that really, if we remember the last Spurs game, it was a layup line and free throw line for the Spurs that entire game because guys weren't in position. And so I think that's the key is like they're passing the test, but the test is going to get harder. And that really is the key is maintaining those habits as you go up against better competition.
Exactly. This is going to be a step up against San Antonio. Now, I will say what I really liked against the Pelicans, the Lakers, this is not something they do very frequently. They won the fast break point battle 24-9 against a younger, more athletic team than them, and they were able to get back in transition defense better. Now, there were moments like when the Lakers played the Pistons. There were moments where the Pistons, their transition defense was, you blinked and they had all five guys back, and the Lakers are still trying to figure out how to get guys across half court. I don't think they're on certainly that level or anything, but they did a better job recovering, getting back. Their turnovers, I think, have been better in terms of I've seen more shot turnovers than anything else, right? When they are getting beat in transition, it's often off of a long bounce on a three rather than an actual live ball turnover. So we're looking at winning the games in the margins. That said, I think it's also fair to note that they're turning it on. They're not playing a full 48 minutes. We saw it last night. They kind of messed around through parts of the game and then turned it on when they really needed to in the fourth quarter. And it's good that they've got that to go to. Now I want to see, though, them play a full, even if we got 44 minutes of them being completely switched on and locked in, that would go a long way towards beating a team like the San Antonio Spurs tonight. By the way, the Spurs, I just looked, a 7.5-point favorite in this one tonight. That may change, too, with this LeBron James news coming out. And, Jason, to your point about that lineup, Luka, Smart, LaRavia, LeBron, and Ayton together are a plus 14.9 in 135 possessions. So not the biggest sample size, but clearly that is that is a group that is working out in LA's favor. So what are we looking to see? Let's
Can I really quickly, I wanted to, before we move on, I just wanted to piggyback on something that Jovan said that I think is really interesting. He talked about the two-man game gaining some steam. And to me, that's actually fascinating because teams are, for the most part, switching the LeBron-Luka action. And one of the things that I think has been a godsend for this version of the Lakers with Austin out that has kind of allowed the Luka-LeBron two-man game to work is LeBron's one-on-one play. And this has been something that has actually not been a huge part of LeBron's success in recent years, where his one-on-one play had actually gone down in some of his recent seasons. But this year, because he's being so physically aggressive to the basket, think what he was doing to Jalen Wells in that second Memphis game, or think even that spin move off of Herb Jones in the post late in the game last night. What's happening is Luka, in order for a two-man game like that to work when they're switching, both guys got to trust their ability to beat either side of the switch. And if the switch is just literally Luka having to go every time, there's a fatigue element that would become a problem. That's too much to ask Luka to do. Think about the last drive on Jaren Jackson, where Luka's literally hands on hips, exhausted. And he's like, please go do something because I'm tired. I need you to do something, right? So there needs to be some sort of reliable LeBron action to go to. And LeBron's just been really good in his one-on-ones this year. He's about a 120 offensive rating in post-ups and ISOs this year. As a matter of fact, out of the 27 players that have run at least 70 post-ups, including passes, LeBron is the 6th most efficient in the NBA on that list. And Luka's just right behind him at 8. And that's the thing, his ability to post up Luka's matchup. So Jalen Wells in the Memphis game, Herb Jones in the Pelicans game. That gives Luka the ability to run action with LeBron and then feed LeBron and then rest. And that, I think, has been a key dynamic that's made that two-man game function.
That's a great point. And it's not even just LeBron scoring in those situations, because we see it as soon as he gets into the post. It's that peek over the shoulder. He's looking, and he has been absolutely diming guys up on those situations. So that has been a very positive action for the Lakers, and something that certainly we're going to need to see even more tonight. Will be interesting to see what that's ultimately going to look like against the Spurs defense and who they can try to exploit in those situations, assuming again that LeBron plays, knock on wood. Jovan, tonight, Spurs obviously did not go well last time these two sides played. The Lakers do have a win over San Antonio. What are you hoping to see happen tonight?
I think it starts first and foremost with ball control. And, I thought that was an area that they really struggled in last time they played the Spurs. I mean, it's sort of been the same formula against these types of teams where they turn the ball over more than they should. They don't get back in transition. They have a bunch of defensive breakdowns in the half court. And as Jason pointed out earlier, it was basically a layup line for San Antonio, either out in transition or early offense or just half court breakdowns for the Lakers. So, I mean, they certainly have to bring a greater level of focus than they had, I think, at the last couple of games. I think both the Memphis and New Orleans game, they started to turn it on in that like mid to late third quarter portion. And if you try to do that tonight against San Antonio, I think you will be down by such a margin that it's going to be hard to get out of that hole. But I think, it's like this is another test for them against an elite team. I think one thing is also going to be their first time, because Wemby didn't play in the last matchup. Mm-hmm. So this is going to be their first time playing like the full strength Spurs group.
Wemby played last night. Is he going to sit out? Because he did.
I haven't seen it. I heard he was supposed to. They said last night he was supposed to play, but
oh really? Okay,
he's still on a minutes restriction and he's still coming off the bench. So it's not like the full strength Spurs, but this is going to be a tough game for the Lakers. Like fourth game in 6 nights. We've seen this group when they have these types of stretches. They tend to be energy depleted and really kind of sucking wind in that final game. It kind of reminds me of that road trip they went on earlier in the season in like mid-November, where they had so many games in a row that, like the Atlanta game or the OKC game, they were just so sort of like out of it physically and just low energy that tonight will be a real test for them. Of course, I think their chance at winning this ultimately comes down to, does LeBron play or not? If LeBron doesn't play, I think they're going to be too shorthanded already without Austin and Rui. But
Gabe is coming back.
Yeah, Gabe Vincent.
Well, I will say, I will note, like,
yeah, I know.
I think Gabe should be the 10th man when healthy, but compared to the way Nick Smith, I've been calling Nick Smith Feast or Famine. That's his nickname for me, is because he either like looks like an all-star and drops 20, or he's basically unplayable. And then Dalton has had a few games here and like didn't really do much. Hit a couple threes last night, took a huge charge, but in like the bigger picture has not really done anything to earn a larger role over the last few games. So I think Gabe replacing those guys at least is like he is a bit higher than those guys in like the general pecking order. But yeah, of course, like when fully healthy, I think he should be more of a fringe rotation guy. Like that would help. But if you don't have LeBron tonight, I think it's just going to be selling out against Luka, and I don't think they have enough offensive weaponry to get by.
Yeah, agreed. And by the way, I just looked, the latest official injury update from the San Antonio Spurs has Wemby as questionable. I think there is a sense he will play, but Devin Vassell is out still, dealing with the left adductor strain. So the Spurs will be not quite 100%, but again, would still expect Wemby to play for this one. Without LeBron, it becomes obviously a huge challenge. Even, matchup wise, obviously with Champagny in there in place of Vassell, it helps a little bit, I suppose, but you still just run into the problem that really tripped up the Lakers last game against the Spurs, and that's that if they're both on the floor, one of LeBron or Luka at least is stuck defending a guy that they're at a very significant speed disadvantage against. And even then, even Jake LaRavia and Marcus Smart, who are going to have to defend two of the other guards when we talk about Castle, we talk about Fox, they're going to be at a disadvantage. If those guys are just living in the paint all night long, the Spurs are going to win the free throw battle, and that's going to be a problem. The Lakers need to win the free throw battles in their games. They're not a high enough volume 3-point shooting team or a high enough accuracy 3-point shooting team to make up for that. They did one game against the Suns where they made up for it by just being monstrous on the offensive glass, but that seemed like a one game kind of outlier type thing. So the Lakers defense is going to be critical. If LeBron plays, they're going to have to, as Jason was talking about, their help defense is going to have to be on point, and it's going to have to be all game long, because this is one of those teams where if you shut off for a couple of minutes, next thing you know, you miss a few rotations. Next thing you know, you're down 10, and then you can never really get back into the game. You struggle to make that uphill climb. And Jovan, like you noted, with Gabe Vincent coming back, we know he's going to get a great cardio workout in, but can he give you more solid defense than
he's going to replace Jake LaRavia as the 5th starter?
Oh God!
Or if there's no LeBron, just slide in there as the 5th starter.
You're going to speak that into existence. Oh my goodness.
I do think this is going to I think Jovan's point about keeping them at a transition with ball security is like absolutely vital. Yes. But I think this is going to be a massive defensive game plan game. One of the things with the Spurs are 2-4 in their last 6 games. And a big part of that has been they have been ice cold from 3. So out of all teams in the NBA over their last 6 games, they're the only team that's made fewer than 30% of their threes. They've been the worst shooting team over the last couple of weeks. Now, that could very well go the other direction tonight. But the point is, if you, again, just forget about the Spurs for a second. It's not like the Lakers expected to keep Ja in front all night, or Jaren Jackson in front all night, or Zion in front all night. Mm-hmm. Your defensive game plan is built beyond what happens when you give up ball contained, right? So with that being the case, it's all about the timing of those help rotations and then little game plan details. Like Julian Champagnie, we need to chase that dude off the line. But if it's Dylan Harper, if it's a Steph Castle, those are the dudes we're either closing out short or we're closing out to the passing lane, to make sure that we can kind of prey on their indecisiveness. If they can tilt the shot profile towards their lesser 3-point shooters and load up on the ball on drives in the half court, meaning they stay out of transition with turnovers, I do think they have a good chance. This is a Spurs team that's been very vulnerable over the last couple of weeks, and they're down some key bodies.
Yeah, so when we talk about, tilting the shots to certain players, for example, Steph Castle is 27% from 3 on the season. The last time these two sides played, though, he knocked down a number of shots. I'm just pulling it right now to see how many he actually hit. It felt like a lot. Yeah, he was 50%. He was 3 of 6 from 3.
The last time had 4 of them, right? If I remember correctly.
Right. I mean, so you just in those situations, you just have to live with it. If you're going to give shots to their worst 3-point shooters and those guys knock down shots, I mean, look what happened in the Mavs game last night, right? Mavs and Kings, it goes to Williams and he hits the big 3, right? Even though he was he's like 18% from deep on the season or something like that. He hits the big 3 to beat Sacramento. Sometimes guys will knock down shots, but that's what the Lakers are going to have to do. They're going to have to live with the percentage if they can funnel the shots to their worst 3-point shooters, not give Harrison Barnes, who, by the way, was terrible shooting the 3 last night, but not give Harrison Barnes a bunch of open looks from the corner 3. That's something JJ Redick has talked about quite a bit in the past. Not get De'Aaron Fox into a rhythm as well. They've got to funnel the shots to the more struggling 3-point shooters and then live with those results. And in the meantime, if you can bait Wemby when he is on the floor into taking a few extra threes, that seems to be a good thing too. He may knock them down, but in my opinion, that's better than Wemby trying to get into the paint where he's a much higher percentage and a much bigger problem to deal with. So that's going to be interesting to see too, is how the Lakers handle the Wemby situation of it all. He got in foul trouble when these two teams played earlier on in the season and got removed from the game. Didn't play a whole lot in that one. So that'll be interesting to watch how the Lakers ultimately handle Wemby when he's on the floor, assuming that he's a go in this one.
Yeah, looking at the last matchup on December 10th, so it's crazy. It's been a month since that game. It feels like it was a couple weeks ago. But the Lakers were if we're just looking at basic team stats, it's like both teams made 43 shots. The Spurs made 1 more 3. The rebounding battle went to San Antonio +7, also +3 on the offensive glass. But turnovers, actually, LA turned the ball over less than San Antonio. It was 11-12 in LA's favor, but points off turnovers 16-11. They had a lot of pick sixes in that game where they actually took care of the ball reasonably well, but every time they turned the ball over, it felt like San Antonio got a layup. The key difference, and Trevor, you mentioned this a little bit earlier, but San Antonio was plus 13 in attempts and plus 12 in makes in terms of free throws. So San Antonio dominated the free throw game. LA could not keep them off the foul line, and that was in part because of the speed and athleticism disadvantage of those guys would just get downhill, and LA couldn't help but foul them. So I think that's going to be a big thing is keeping them off the line, but that does start at the point of attack in keeping them out of the paint, which I think is going to be a big challenge tonight.
Yeah, it definitely will. It definitely will. That's going to be the task that the Lakers have to find a way to conquer. If they can, they'll be the 2 seed in the West. I believe that'll bump them up, and they'll wind up as the 2 seed if they can get the job done. If
it's 2 or 5, if they win, they're 2. If they're 5, or if they lose, they're 5.
But if you win that game, it's a huge palate cleanser too.
Yes,
from some
100%.
of their other losses. Like if you win that game, you have the 3rd best record in the league, 2nd best record in the West, and you get a win versus the type of team you've struggled with all season. It's the kind of win that like erases a really bad loss, or maybe even 2 of them. You know what I mean? Like go get this win.
Agreed.
Tonight.
I talked about this last night on my show. That this is every game counts the same. They're all one of 82, right? But the 3 games that you just won over Memphis and New Orleans, winning this game would matter more. It would matter a lot more because not just you're going up against a team you're directly competing with for playoff seeding in the Western Conference, not just because it would move you up to the 2 seed, but also because stylistically, this is the team, the kind of team that you've struggled with all season. And you simply cannot go into the playoffs saying, well, I just hope we don't run up against an athletic team that defends aggressively on the perimeter. Hopefully we don't run into one of those two because we just can't beat them. You need to find ways to get wins against these teams. A win tonight against San Antonio would mean a lot. Obviously, the Lakers are a fairly heavy underdog going into this one. We'll see if LeBron plays or not, but a win would be very meaningful for this Lakers team. All right, let's get into some of the questions, comments coming in from the chat. Guys, we are going to be out right at noon today. So just so you know, any extra questions I will try to get into coming up in the next few days here. We'll make sure that we get to any leftover super chats. But before we get to the questions, want to give a quick I didn't know it was going to take you guys out there. Who's running this thing? I meant to do that. SeatGeek, want to give them a shout out. Great sponsor for our channel. We certainly do appreciate them. And then we're going to get into your questions and comments in 1 minute. Don't go anywhere. Going to live sporting events is so much fun, and that's why I want to give today's sponsor, SeatGeek, a big shout out. With over 35 million downloads, SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app. There are over 70,000 events listed on SeatGeek, including sporting events, concerts, festivals, and more. I love using SeatGeek. The app is so simple, so intuitive to use, and they've got your back. Each ticket is rated on a scale of 1 to 10, so you know you're getting a good deal. Look for the green dots. Green means good, and red means bad. And SeatGeek does a great job separating them. Like, for example, I was looking for Lakers tickets. You can see all the green out there. That's how you know you're getting a good deal. You can look through the map. You can scroll through all your different options and find the seats that you want. And every ticket is backed by their buyer guarantee. Plus, of course, I've got a code for you guys. You can use code LakersCollective10 for 10% off your next set of tickets at SeatGeek. That's 10% off any tickets with promo code LakersCollective10. Make sure you click the link in the description to download the app and have the code automatically added to your account so you can use it later. SeatGeek, go check them out and use that code LakersCollective10. All right, let's get into our chat questions. Once again, big thank you to
we're switched, by the way. I feel like a werewolf. The beard's starting to come in now.
Yeah.
Hang on. There
we go.
There we go. Oh boy. Adjusting on the fly here. Okay. Let's get into some of the questions and comments coming in from the chat. Muffin Break said, love you guys, even though I spend way too much time on your content. Girlfriend's traumatized from me falling asleep to your pods. Well, thank you. We appreciate that kind of commitment there. And so if you have to make a choice between sports and the girlfriend, well, I think you know what you need to do there.
We'll never leave you.
Rookie of the year, Flag or Knipple, realistic fifth starter outside the usual pick. So rookie of the year, and Khan has been fantastic. I still think when the dust settles, it's going to wind up being Cooper Flag. We saw some fantastic stuff from him last night for the Mavs. Obviously, it was against the Sacramento Kings, not the stiffest competition, but I think Cooper Flag is really settling in at this point. I've got him winning Rookie of the Year, not by a lot, not like we thought coming into the season, but I still think he gets it done. Where are you guys at?
He's a better defender too. The Kings game was actually kind of fun last night. It was a little bit of a little bit of a Westbrook classic. There was a really bad bricked pull-up bank shot. There was a missed box out on a key rebound late, and then Cooper hit like this pretty nifty little left-handed bank shot on a play where Russ kind of gambled to go for a steal and got himself out of position. And Cooper, 2 big plays late, like you talked about it earlier, Trevor, that trusting Brandon Williams on pretty aggressive nail help from Dennis Schroeder. Dennis straight up sent a double, and Cooper just trusted his teammate to knock a shot down. But again, their offensive numbers kind of even out between the two of them. But I just think Cooper's been such a more dynamic, all around player than Khan this year.
Agreed. I think I forgot who said it a few years ago, but basically, if you go through NBA history, you just add up points, rebounds, and assists, and that's the Rookie of the Year, as reductive as that is. Yeah, typically every year, whoever's the leader of points, rebounds, and assists combined tends to win Rookie of the Year. That's Cooper Flag this year, but I do think he's a much better defender than Khan, and the shooting has ticked up in December. If you look at his November splits versus his December splits, still not a plus shooter, but I think that's like or one of the final things for him. But I mean, he's looked incredible. I think averaged 21 for the month of December and has been a big part in Dallas trying to turn their season around. So I would go Flag. And then the last one is interesting. Realistic fifth starter outside the usual picks.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you this. Is it just Jake?
Guys? I lean Jake.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing with Jake, so there's 2 things with Jake that I think he's got to figure out. So last night he goes 2 for 4, and I think with who's available right now, there should not be a scenario in which he's only taking 4 shots. I think he just will have these games or these stretches where he's just not as involved offensively as I think he should be for ideally the fifth starter. And then the second thing is just a foot speed thing. And this is why I still lean Marcus, although he got exposed at times in the Memphis and New Orleans matchups as well. But I thought Jake had a bit of a rough defensive performance last night in terms of trying to stick with Trey Murphy and just screen navigation or point of attack defense against him. If you are quicker than him, you can just get by him simply. And I think that sort of ball containment can be an issue with him. So I against a Kawhi type, I think he's defended Kawhi incredibly in both of the Clippers matchups, but I don't think he's necessarily got the versatility to defend quicker guards, where I think Marcus has a little bit more versatility there of he can guard some of the quicker guards, but he also can scale up against some wings. So I still lean Marcus in that regard. But I mean, if they stick with Jake and they're like, hey, we think Marcus is better off the bench, we don't want to put too much of a load on him, I'm cool with that too.
My case for Jake over Marcus is, one, I think Marcus's aggression actually does support some of the bench groups when there's less ball handling on the floor. And I think there's a thing with Jake. I wish I could combine Marcus's aggressiveness off the catch with Jake, because there have been a couple of times over the past 3 games where I thought Jake passed up shots that they kind of need him to take. But I do believe in Jake as a guy that I think can get closer to that 37, 38% on 5 or 6 threes a game, a decent volume. He's got good form. He's trusting it a little bit more as of late. I like Jake as more of a do less kind of guy with the starting lineup, whereas Marcus could do more with bench groups. That said, I totally agree with Jovan. I don't think you could go wrong with either of those 2 guys.
Yeah, I like both the fits. I think Jake has certainly gotten closer to making his case and to cementing a spot in the starting five with the way that he's been playing lately. To Jovan's point, though, about the foot speed, the point of attack issues, we saw it, when he got switched on to Jeremiah Fears, he couldn't stay in front of him, which it maybe is not a surprise given the quickness that he's got. But even Murphy was getting right past him. And that's not the Murphy to say Murphy is slow, but Jake is at his best when he's defending more of the true wing players, or at least the slower footed guys. You certainly know you're going to get the hustle. You're going to get, we talk a lot about the other stuff that guys need to be able to do out there on the court with LeBron, with Luka, eventually with Austin Reeves as well. And Jake is doing those sorts of things. He's rebounding the basketball. He's flying all over the court. He's putting in the effort. He can knock down the open three. Him and Vando are both great at knocking down like picture perfect all net string music, or just missing the basket completely. But whatever, as long as they shoot a high enough percentage in the end, I guess we'll take it. But I do think, to Jovan's point with Marcus Smart, he has a little bit quicker foot speed than LaRavia does. That said, I like on this Lakers team, do you have somebody that can stay in front of the ultra quick guards? And let's face it, maybe there's not many players in the NBA who can, but even Smart isn't going to stay in front of everybody that's out there on the floor. He's going to get burned as well. I don't know that they have the point of attack guard defender that they need at this point, or point of attack wing defender either. But Jake, I think, is getting closer to becoming that for them. I think ultimately, push comes to shove, I still will lean Marcus Smart, but Jake has made a real case for himself. And I think seeing Jake and Marcus out there together, again, we talked about it earlier, so I won't rehash too much, but has only solidified, I think, the stance that you shouldn't bring Rui back into the starting five when he does return, though they can certainly use him. James asks, who's going to have to take a back seat when Austin returns? I think the phrase back seat, I think that goes too far. I look at more as who gets to take some of the scoring burden off. Look at the Lakers. They've done well when LeBron and Luka have scored 30 plus each. Who doesn't have to score 30 in order for the Lakers to get a win? I don't take a back seat, to me, has a negative connotation, and I don't think that's really what it is. I think we've seen moments in these games lately where Luka has been exhausted, where he's been eager to get a rest and get out of games. I do think they miss Austin from having somebody else to take on some of that scoring burden.
Yeah, I just think they need Austin. I think he just helps. And I mean, he'd arguably be your best defender out of the other four starters, not named the guys that we were just debating. He's a guy who's been a knockdown three-point shooter this year. Like, the Lakers are already trying to support LeBron with a guy like Nick Smith Jr. as a scoring guard off of him. Just pretend Nick Smith Jr. is actually Austin, and some of these groups that Luka's been by himself that haven't done as well. I think Austin could support him. I don't see the return of Austin as that. Yeah, you're right, Trevor, that they're all their points per game averages might go down a tiny bit, or LeBron might go down a tiny bit. But if anything, I think if there's a silver lining, I think that this stretch with Austin out has given LeBron just this big wide runway to just figure it out. And guess what? LeBron's been shooting 58% from the field over the last 5 games. So like, there's a certain amount of like, you prefer to have Austin, but there's been a benefit in LeBron getting a chance to build some rhythm. When Austin comes back, all he's going to do is just add a little bit to a bunch of categories where the Lakers need help.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. So the last 4 games without Austin, Luka's averaging 20 and a half shots. LeBron's averaging 17. And then there's a big drop off to Jake at 10, DeAndre at 9, Marcus Smart at 7. So I think Jake, DeAndre, and Marcus are probably the 3 guys I look at that there's like a little bit of you're slashing some of that. I think LeBron probably goes from 17 shots a game down to 14, 15, right? Maybe Luka shaves off another shot or 2, and then you get to, I think the ideal range is probably the big 3, each taking at least 14, 15 shots. I think Luka will, of course, always be the usage leader and be in that like 18 to 20 shot range. But yeah, I think that like, and you also factor in Luka is attempting 14 free throw. That's crazy. 14 free throw attempts over this stretch. So like the usage is even higher, obviously, with like 20 shots and 14 free throws. That will come down to some degree, I think, once Austin's back. But yeah, I mean, I think it's more so just the role, like the collective role players, I think will be less involved offensively, and LA will go back to being a more concentrated offense through the big three.
And frankly, that's probably a good thing. I mean, not only is Austin, a better offensive player than the role guys that we're talking about, but Jason was just talking about Jake LaRavia being more of a like a low lift type of guy that doesn't have to have the ball in order to get things done out there for you. We've seen moments where LaRavia has been asked to do a bit more in terms of creation and handling the ball and things of that nature. And that's where it's a little bit above him when he's put into that kind of role. I think we'll see less of that. There's less of, Nick Smith getting put in positions where if he is feast or famine, he's famine one night and you're, now we're in some trouble. Less situations like that where those guys are relied upon and asked to do more things out of necessity. Instead, you can ask guys to do things because you want them to do those things rather than because you don't have anybody else to do them.
We talked about the one-on-ones with LeBron too. Like LeBron has not been a great ball screen player this year. He's been okay. He's been like slightly above average, but he hasn't been great at that the way he has been in his one-on-ones. Austin's literally one of the best pick and roll players in the league. So it just gives the Lakers another option to go with in those Luka off groups for reliable offense.
All right, let's go here. Senpai says, Rob is extremely lucky that Smart got bought out. Summer would have been a huge miss without him. He has a plus 13 on-off swing. Current starting five is about a plus 20. Yeah, I mean, look, we could say lucky, like how much, back channeling was done and everything to make it clear that was going to be an option. Like, did DeAndre Ayton negotiate his buyout with the Blazers not knowing that the Lakers were going to be there waiting for him? Certainly not, right? So that sort of stuff is important. But yeah, I mean, the buyouts definitely helped the Lakers this summer, and Marcus Smart, when he's been healthy, I think has been a very positive addition to this team. There's been a little bit of the Marcus Smart that what he's known for, where he'll be ice cold from 3 one game, he'll be hot another game. You get inconsistency there, but he's a consistent effort player every single night. He's defensive positive. I think Marcus Smart has been fantastic for this team, and if I'm the Lakers, I am hoping, I don't think he does, but I'm hoping that he picks up that player option for $5 million and change next season.
He's also played in 25 games. Like this was a guy who played in, like he barely played in the previous 2 seasons. So like I think
54 games over the past 2 years, which is 27. I mean, he's already basically at his average over the past 2 seasons.
Exactly. Like I think credit to Marcus for getting his body back to where it needs to be, and let's cross our fingers and knock on some wood and hope that it stays that way. But I think it's hard to look at the Marcus signing as anything other than a hit.
All right, let's go here. 3 games in 5 days. 41-year-old LeBron, 29-8-8. Is he back? I do think we're seeing LeBron get more of a bounce back in his step. We're seeing LeBron look more and more like himself. Guys, are you concerned at all about, with Austin out, the usage on LeBron? Obviously, it's great seeing him do what he's been doing. He's been absolutely fantastic. There have been some throwback performances for him. Are you worried about the sustainability of this usage?
That's arguably the most important part about Austin coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I think LeBron's back. I think the final 2 things for him are the 3-point shot has not quite been where it's been the last couple of years. Like he had been a 40% catch and shoot guy the last 2 seasons, and he has been shooting the ball better recently, and I think that will come in time. I think that the final thing is the defensive side. I don't think he has been quite up to the level he was at last year when, remember, they had that 20-4 stretch, league best defense. LeBron was a huge catalyst in carrying that. He was the through line where that stretch included AD playing, AD getting injured, the Luka trade, Luka being injured, and then Luka eventually playing. So they had all these iterations of what the Lakers look like for parts of that stretch. And like the one primary through line was LeBron and JJ's defensive game plans. But I don't think LeBron has gotten back to that level. I think he's been productive in some of those Banshee lineups, in the bench groups. He's also closed some games well against New Orleans and Memphis, but that's like the final thing. But overall, he has looked like LeBron, to Jason's point earlier. The mismatch hunting, getting downhill, playing with force, just bully ball, getting to the rim. Like he has looked awesome in that regard. So yeah, I mean, you could go back, I think even like 12 games now, he's averaging 26, 6 and 6 on, I think like over 50% shooting. He's been awesome for a few weeks now. So yeah, I think LeBron is officially back.
Yep.
Yeah, so his scoring average has been high for a while now, but his efficiency over the last 8 games is absurd. So he's at 26 points per game over his last 8, 56% from the field, 39% from 3 on 6 attempts per game. That all comes out to, I'm getting the true shooting. That's at 65% true shooting. So, I mean, like, LeBron has been pretty unbelievable on offense for the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, he's been fantastic. I love what we're seeing out of him, and he's John Wick. I'm thinking he's back.
I agree with Jovan, too, that, like, he's not to the level defensively that he was at last year in February, like late January, early February. But I do think that he's at least, like, attempting to get some momentum there, and so I'll be really curious to see if, like, in about 2-3 weeks, if he's operating like a more reliable night-to-night defender for them.
Isn't it weird? Like, it feels like LeBron has been back for a while now. He's only played 18 games. I don't know if it's just because time warps in the NBA world or whatever, but he's only been back for, what is it now, 6 weeks, and only played in 18 games. So it's, I mean, I think it's perfectly reasonable for him to take a little bit of time to get his legs back under him, especially when he didn't get an off season, didn't get a preseason, no training camp, none of that kind of stuff. And makes sense that he'd be playing his way into things right now and looking better and better and better. Right now, they really need him to be playing at this level with Austin Reeves out, and he's been absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, there was kind of a little bit of a negative turn with LeBron there during that losing streak, which I thought was a little unfair because it was a team-wide set of issues. Like, LeBron shared some blame, Luka shared some blame, Rob Pelinka shared some blame, and, like, I think to everyone's credit, including Luka, including several guys further down in the rotation, everyone's just kind of locked in a little bit, and it's led to some better basketball.
All right, let's go here. I'm convinced Champagnie on Washington is the best trade target for the Lakers. Is it realistic they could get him? I think it's more realistic you can get him than, like, Trey Murphy or something. We had a bunch of Lakers fans after last night's game saying, can we get Trey Murphy? 29 teams think would like to have him, but I don't think that's realistic. But maybe on a player like that, especially if Washington gets involved in a big Trae Young deal where there's a lot of moving pieces, maybe there'd be an opportunity to jump in as a third, fourth, fifth, whatever team on a big deal with a lot of moving parts. I don't mind the target, but that's the kind of a off the bench type of wing player. You're not going to want to surrender. That to me, guys, screams like you find a team that wants to roll the dice on Dalton Connect and give that a shot. You're not going and surrendering certainly your future first round pick in order to go get, or Rui Hachimura in order to go get Champagnie.
I like Champagnie.
Of note, I know people have said that the Lakers and Wizards have made deals in the past, but that was the previous regime. They now have Michael Winger in charge, so that is a new regime in Washington. So I don't know the dynamic between Winger and Pelinka, but the previous regime had a good relationship with Pelinka and the Lakers. I don't know about the current regime, but yeah, the one thing with him I would quickly note is that he's shooting 33% on 2 3-point attempts per game. That's not good enough, certainly, to be a starter. But of note, looking at his splits, as a starter in 8 games, he's shooting 38% on threes. Off of the bench in 25 games, he's shooting 31% on threes. So maybe there is something to, I think when we talk about some of these guys and taking them from bad teams, from lottery situations into the Lakers, think about the shot quality that they can get playing next to Luka and LeBron and Austin. And it's different than playing in Washington or Brooklyn or wherever. So that could be an situation where if he's getting the Jake LaRavia, Marcus Smart, Jared Vanderbilt looks, he could maybe be a high 30s to even 40% 3-point shooter.
Another way to split it, if you look at synergy, 45 of his threes have come directly out of spot up situations, and on those he's shooting 38%. He's missing all of the tougher shots he's taking off the move, which are shots he's probably not going to take in a Lakers jersey if that sort of deal gets done. The other thing I always look at with guys like that is when you see, I think another major manifestation of athleticism is rim finishing percentage, and he's very efficient at the rim, which is a thing that I think reflects his athleticism. I just think, like, To the premise of the question in terms of like realistic, we kind of talked about this in a pod. It was like, I think it might've been last week. But there's like a dozen of these kinds of guys around the league. These like kind of bench wings that are not quite good enough to be a starter on a great team, but that can play 15, 20 minutes for a serious team if they're surrounded by good competition. And what Rob needs to do is just essentially put together a list of all these dudes and just call on all of them, when they get into February, and just kind of scope out the situation and see which ones are available, because those are the kinds of things that, again, I think the Lakers would reap more out of a player like that than another team because of the athleticism deficit that they deal with.
Do you like him on the floor with LeBron? He's played nearly all of his minutes for Washington so far this year at the 4, but even classified as a big, which is what Cleaning the Glass has him as, which I think is a little bit of a mistake. He is still, even compared to bigs, his rebounding percentages are fantastic. He's in the 78th percentile as an offensive rebounder when compared to bigs, and 57th percentile as a defensive rebounder. Where would you slot him?
I think of him like his brother, as like a wing, like kind of a hybrid wing.
Yeah, I view him more as a 3.
I do too. I was surprised to see him being compared to bigs there. All right. Not healthy, and we win more than we lose. It's not April yet, so no need to complain when we know this won't be the final roster. It is worth noting that the Lakers are, I believe, a little over a week away from being able to sign a veteran minimum contract.
January 19th.
So that's coming up, where they could use their final open roster spot. I don't expect them to actually use it until after the trade deadline. So I think it makes too much sense to go into the trade deadline with an open roster spot to potentially facilitate trades. So they could add players. But in terms of this, we know this won't be the final roster. How confident are you guys that they've got a move in them, or multiple moves perhaps, at the trade deadline?
Jovan, you'd be better to answer that than me.
So, to the premise of this question, I know a lot of fans, or there's a certain segment of the fan base that feels this way, and I totally get that it's more of an optimistic view on things. I think I'm only going to speak for myself here, but I feel like you guys probably agree. When we're talking maybe critically about this team, it's simply through a championship lens, right? Like it's through a contention lens of course, like the Lakers are objectively a good team, regardless. Like you could throw out the net rating, throw out the point differential. They are the 4th best team in the league record wise. They have some really good wins this season, especially in crunch time. Even the crunch time narrative, I think, has gotten blown out of proportion a little bit in terms of they beat in San Antonio, they beat in Phoenix, they beat in Toronto, they beat in Philly. Like they do have they beat Minnesota earlier in the season. And yes, some of those teams were shorthanded, but the Lakers were also shorthanded in some of those games. So they have some nice wins, and they have been a good team this season. I think it's just when we start comparing them to how do they match up with Denver? How do they match up with Houston? How do they match up with San Antonio? How do they match up with OKC? Those teams have much stronger statistical markers, have more statement wins, have more blowout wins, have done better against above 500 teams. And that's where we start to nitpick and start to criticize a little bit. So if you want to take the optimistic viewpoint and just say, hey, the Lakers are good, they're the number 3 seed right now, they're probably going to make a move, and like you're feeling really good about them, like, more power to you. I have no issue with that if that's your viewpoint. As to whether they make a move or not, I think it in part comes down to whether they want to move that first round pick. And it seems like, my understanding is that they have a pretty high bar for moving that first round pick. I think Herb Jones is a guy that they would consider moving it for, depending on the framework of that deal. But outside of that, some of these names that have been out there, like I don't think they're going to move a first round pick for Keon Ellis. I don't think they're going to move a first round pick for Ayo Dosunmu or Sadiq Bey or any of these other more like bench guys. So if they're not willing to do that, then it does potentially limit the candidate pool. And in general, the buzz that's been out there is this is not a great trade market right now. Teams are asking for more than they should be. And outside of some maybe some stars that have taken a value hit like a Trae Young or an AD, there's just not a lot of like big names right now that are perceived to be available on the market. So Rob is going to have his work cut out for him. I still think they will make a move, but there's a big gap in my opinion between like trading for Herb Jones or trading for Champagnie, right? Like that there's a gap there in terms of the potential impact on how that changes the Lakers season. So I do think they will do something. Just the scale of it could be a little disappointing for fans who are hoping for them to trade for like some game-changing piece that dramatically remakes the roster.
Yeah, I think to trade their future first, they've got to get a locked-in starter for the foreseeable future, a guy that fits with Luka long term. That's what they've got to get in order to move that pick. It is a tough market, and what's interesting is we're seeing with AD, with Trae Young, teams are not willing to pay these guys full max deals, and it's becoming a situation where players are trying to get out of locations so they can get to teams that will pay them. Players are on teams that won't pay them, trying to get to where it's the same situation we saw Brandon Ingram with, where Clutch had to get him to Toronto last year to find a team that would pay him. And so that's an interesting wrinkle in the market right now, but that's also not really what the Lakers are trying to get in on. The Lakers are trying to be a buyer on perhaps the most difficult type of player to buy right now, and that's wings who can defend and shoot, and that's what everybody in the NBA wants. Nobody wants to let go of those guys, so Rob Pelinka certainly has his work cut out for him, but we'll see if he can get something done. So far, the Lakers have, they've got a track record of getting deals done midseason. We'll see if that continues to be the case.
To your point, Trevor, just because you just said this, and I think it's prescient, Shams just tweeted that Trae Young has the Washington Wizards as his top preferred trade destination. There's literally no way Trae would want that unless the Wizards were the only team willing to give him a long-term deal. So like you're the way you described it's exactly that. Like he's just trying to get somewhere that someone will give him money.
Yep. That's exactly it. All right, I'm going to close with this one. Bum, my last super chat didn't get read. Really enjoying the show. Apologies for that. We do save the super chats after the show. I've already got the ones that I know we're not going to get to on today's show saved, and I try to combine them all into a show midweek or so whenever we have time to make sure we get those. But we do try to make sure we get to all of them. It just may not be immediately. I have NBA League Pass now. How do you guys watch all the Lakers games? I mean, depends on where it's airing, but League Pass, obviously if it's on Peacock or Prime or wherever, watch them on there. But that's typically, now that playback no longer exists, that was how I was watching every game for a while there. But that's, the usual ways is how we're watching these games, or at least I'm assuming that's how you guys do it as well.
That's what I was just going to say is like, I used to be covering the Laker games on playback, and like, I've treated the Laker games as like my one opportunity to not work and just be a fan. So like, I'll just sit down in front of the TV and like chill and maybe have a beer and like watch the game and just enjoy it. Like that's been like kind of the final bastion of me as an NBA fan, has been just chilling and watching a Lakers game at night.
I have been gifted League Pass by the league. So I haven't, and just from being a beat reporter, they would give out League Pass to beat reporters. So I still have that. And the nice version is like, it does come with like nothing is blacked out, or that there's no restrictions in terms of when you could watch things or what you could watch, which has been nice. But I watch everything on League Pass.
All right. Let's Jovan, if you're good, we'll do a couple more.
Yeah. We could do some more.
Okay. Let's go here. If Rui's not here next year, how about using him to get Monk and Ellis and maybe a second? That keeps JJ from starting Rui. Bench pop from Monk and Ellis on the wing. I've been largely against going after Malik Monk because of the long-term nature of his deal. I'd rather have the future flexibility than the scoring punch that he brings, even if the real lure is getting Keon Ellis. Where are you guys at with taking on Malik Monk, 2 more years under contract after this one, if that means that you're getting Keon Ellis?
I've gotten this question before on my show. I'm not a big Malik Monk guy, especially through the lens of if you already have Luka in Austin. I mean, you can stagger it a bit, but then you also throw in LeBron, and I think you're just getting into some situations there where you're a little too offensive minded and you have similar defensive questions. Like if Monk is even coming at the expense of, as wild as this might sound, like Gabe, But like if he's playing over Smart and Laravia and Gabe and Vando to some degree based on the lineup construction, you're just a worse defensive team. I do like the notion of them adding a bench score, and we've seen the value of that with like Nick Smith Jr., for example, of when he's cooking off the bench. That does add a dynamic that the Lakers haven't consistently had. I think the concern with me with Monk is that he's a small guard who is a defensive liability, and I think would expect to play. I mean, Sacramento has benched him, and he's got DNP CDs there, but I think in theory, he is someone who's more like a sixth man type or someone who's playing like mid to high 20s minutes. And I don't think the Lakers can afford to add a small offensive-minded guard into their rotation when they're already a bottom 7 defense. So that would be my fear with this. Like, yes, it could propel their offense to a different level. He might be a better shooter than just about anybody else on the roster, especially if you're taking off Rui. But I don't like the idea of a 6'2" defensive liability being added into the rotation. I do really like Keon Ellis, so that I would be pro adding Ellis. But yeah, I just think Monk, it changes the dynamic of the rotation in a negative way, in my opinion.
I like Malik Monk. I just don't think the Lakers need him.
You guys are right exactly where I've been at.
I could have just said that.
James said, you're the GM and have to get LeBron to return next year. What deal and pitch are you offering and why?
You get to stay home. Yeah. Like, I think honestly, when it comes down to the LeBron thing next year, I think you're selling him on a chance to compete for the title without leaving. And I think what you have to sell him is like a vision for how to build the team in a way to structure his salary in a way that he still feels adequately compensated, but it allows the team to still compete. I think it's going to look a lot like, what was it, 2 summers ago when they were pursuing Klay Thompson, was it? Where it's kind of like if you can come to LeBron and be like, hey, listen, sign this deal and we're also getting this guy, I think you could get LeBron on board. But like, if Rob doesn't have some plan for significant talent, I think LeBron's going to want a max, and I don't blame him necessarily. I mean, the dude's, we just had talked about how over the last 9 games, he's averaging 26 points on 65% true shooting. So like there's a lot of guys who are making 50 million that are not that good in the league right now.
Pretty much agree with everything Jason just said. I think the number LeBron's going to want or feel like he deserves is probably higher than what the Lakers are going to want to offer, and certainly would affect their ability to make other moves in free agency. So that's going to be a tough situation for LA to figure out in terms of keeping LeBron versus trying to upgrade other parts of the roster. And obviously, if you lose LeBron, I do think they are a worse team. So, unless you can somehow replace him with another equal piece or maybe 2 to 3 pieces that collectively add up to similar value. But I don't envy Rob's situation this summer, because you also have, you got a lot of things you got to figure out. You have like, what's Austin's final number? And as crazy as it sounds, like 38 million versus 42 million. I mean, they will likely operate with him just on the cap hold, but in terms of the overall number and like in the future, the 38 versus the 42 as a starting point and what the ultimate contract looks like will have a say in future Lakers moves and what the roster looks like. You got the DeAndre Ayton situation where 2 weeks ago, I felt much better about DeAndre Ayton than I do recently, with some of the pouting and the low effort performances against Houston and Detroit. Then you have Rui and his whole situation, depending on if you trade him or not, he's extension eligible on the 30th. And then you also have LeBron and his situation. And is he even playing? Does he want to be in LA? What's that number going to be? So they have a lot to figure out here, not only at the trade deadline, but with the summer. But I think based on, it's probably a 1-year deal, and which would then give him a de facto no trade clause again. And I don't know, 25, 30 million, I think what would be my offer ideally, but I don't know if that's enough for him. And yeah.
I think we're starting to see around the NBA that there is a squeeze with players who are not who are of a certain age, right? We saw Kevin Durant take a bit less with the Houston Rockets, and also the guys who aren't the true put a team on your shoulders, dragged into the playoffs, max super duper star level player. These guys, Trae Young's not going to get a max on his next deal. AD's not going to get a max on his next deal. And their incumbent teams don't want to pay them that. That's part of why they're trying to look for other places that will give them a payday. And I still don't think, though, even if Trae goes to Washington, is he getting a max salary? Probably not, because the Wizards, I think, would ideally like to take Trae and then flip him if they can down the road, rehab his value a little bit, but they got to get him on the right kind of contract in order to do that. So I don't expect LeBron to get a max salary next year. But the key for the Lakers in an ideal world is being able to go to LeBron and say, hey, LeBron, we need you to take $25 million, right? You've gotten your big paydays. Austin's got to get paid. We're going to get Austin to do $38 million or something like that, right? But by doing that, that means we're going to get X, Y, and Z. These people, exactly. We're going to be able to do these things because you're taking 25, 30, whatever it is. LeBron says, no, I need 55. And I think the way he's played recently, and if he continues playing this way for the remainder of the season, he can make an argument like, no, I'm worth 55. I'm worth this. And if he wants that, then maybe they part ways. And that's ultimately where this goes. But let's say things go swimmingly the rest of the way. Things continue to go well. LeBron plays well. Luka plays well. Austin plays well. The three come together. They combine their powers. Everything looks great. You're still going to go to LeBron. You're going to say, hey, we know we need to add these sorts of things to the team. We can be a cap space team. We can have some flexibility, but we need you to do this. They just need to be able to show this is what we're going to be able to do with that flexibility. Because you're taking this much, because we're getting you at this number, we're now able to add these players. And that will be, Rob has got to put on his sales hat, and he's got to sell LeBron on that exactly. Hey, because you're taking less, we can get these guys, and we'll see if he's able to accomplish that.
Yeah, he's not going to take a discount just for discount's sake.
No,
it's got to be as like or to save the team tax or something. Like, it's going to have to be because of a player that they have in mind.
All right, we'll go here. Bowen said, "What's up with mixed messages from Clutch and LeBron on the Lakers? LeBron says Lakers are Luka's team, but LeBron doesn't mention AR as most improved on Mind the Game." Jason, what?
Everyone's got to stop living and dying with every little innuendo and quote that you like, dude. This is ridiculous. Like, I don't mean to jump on you, Bowen, but like, it's just this. LeBron for years has had all these different media endeavors all over the place that have all these different little things and thoughts that go out, and everyone just lives and dies off of every single quote. LeBron has been AR's biggest supporter literally since he got into the league. There's such a long track record on that. I personally, I'm a big believer in, like, don't get so caught up on all the noise and just kind of pay attention to what's happening on the court. And like, it's like the LeBron-Luka thing. Everyone's like, oh, the LeBron-Luka look fine on the court. I don't know what people are seeing. Like, I don't see any rift there. I don't see any issue there. I think Luka knows he needs LeBron. LeBron knows he needs Luka. Like, I'm not seeing any of the stuff that people are trying to drive out of these quotes.
Couple follow-ups. I noticed that the two guys he did mention were Jalen Johnson and Tyrese Maxey, who are both Clutch guys. So certainly deserving in being mentioned. And both guys have taken significant leaps this season. But LeBron did mention a couple of Clutch guys in like the most improved or just like guys who've taken big steps this season. I think there's certainly been some mixed messaging coming out of the Game Over podcast with Rich Paul. Now, Rich has been adamant that he is not representing LeBron's thoughts or speaking for LeBron when he's sharing some of these things. But I thought the really telling thing recently was when he said the Lakers have to pick a direction and they have to communicate to their stars what direction they want to go in this trade deadline. That I don't see any way he was not speaking on LeBron's behalf in that situation and basically indicating the Lakers have not told LeBron what they want to do over the next month and which direction they're going in. So certainly like that podcast, I think, has added some fuel to this fire over the past month or so, but I wouldn't read too much into it. Like, LeBron has championed AR since I mean, LeBron was advocating for AR to be on the roster after that mini camp that they had. That was a big part in, like, he went to Rob and was like, this dude's too good to be on a two-way. This guy needs to be on the roster. So, I think I have no concern about LeBron and AR in that dynamic.
Well, and with so many things that LeBron does or says, like, flip it. If LeBron says Austin Reeves is the most improved player and should get that award, right? He comes out and says that, it's going to be, oh, LeBron, it's just a homer take from LeBron, and he's not going to mention these other guys and all. Like, he's going to, LeBron, whatever he does will be criticized, and people will read too much into whatever he does and says. I would not take anything away from him not mentioning AR there. All right, let's go. Patrick said, if you could turn Rui, Gabe, and Connect into multiple players, like Wiggins or even Herb Jones, who would they be? Also, who's winning a game of one-on-one out of all three? Great show. All right, so let's start with, whoever's going to win the game of one-on-one. I am at a severe height disadvantage compared to both of you guys, but Jason is cooking either one of us.
Yeah, I've never seen you guys play, so I can't speak to this.
I think Jason would win one-on-one.
But let's go to Rui, Gabe, Connect into multiple players, like Wiggins or even Herb Jones. Who would?
How's your Achilles doing, Jovan? Are you playing again yet?
A little bit. I probably played like 15 times. I would say since the recovery, but.
Do you trust it?
It's still.
Do you like feel?
I don't. I trust it. I trust it to a degree. I'm still just like a little nervous of if I were to tweak something else. Going through that process was not fun.
Well, I'm glad to hear that you're able to play again, because I know that was super discouraging when that happened.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
Would you do? Rui, Gabe, Connect into, I think that for me, like on Andrew Wiggins, it's always I wouldn't want to see the Lakers give up the first in order to get him. When you're taking on you're clearing $30 million off the Heat's books for next year. I don't think Andrew Wiggins is getting $30 million if he were a free agent. I don't think I think he's been overpaid on that. So as long as you're not giving up the first like that, I think you're okay doing something like that for Wiggins and Herb Jones. Again, if you can do something, turning those guys into something like that, great, into a better fitting piece. There just has to be a certain bar, because Rui, I think, is a legit player on this team. He may not fit in the starting lineup, but he's an important piece. So you're not just trading those guys just to trade them, and especially Rui. But as long as you're getting somebody that you think can be a fit for this team, both now and into the future, I think you're okay with moving on from those kinds of expiring contracts. Well, with the exception of Connect's not expiring.
I don't think you're getting either of these guys without giving up the first.
Yeah, I'm hoping that things continue to go south with Miami. Vibes are not great. I posted a clip this morning. They kind of quit in the fourth quarter last night against Minnesota. So, like, as long as the vibes keep going south, I think that always increases leverage and discussion. I think if you could get a guy like Wiggins with a second, I think that would be just an absolute home run. But I'm with you guys that I don't think that's going to happen.
All right, let's go here. Miss Optimist said, Jason's wanting so hard to marginalize LeBron as a dirty work player, constantly advocating against his role on offense and then ignoring it. Ridiculous. Jason, you are such a LeBron hater.
I must have listened to a different pod the last hour. I don't know, guys. I don't know what I was talking about with all those post up and one-on-one stats.
Oh, man. Look, it comes to this is a perfect follow-up. More people need to apply your quote to real life. Don't hear what I'm not saying. I really wish people would stop fishing for non-issues. I think this was in response to the LeBron comment questions about LeBron and the most improved thing, but it applies here too. I really do think we are in an era where people go looking for things to be upset about. And so if they hear something that doesn't completely align with any type of criticism of a player they like, it's seen as hate. And that's the way that it goes, because I think you're doing it right when you're getting people complaining about the way you're covering different players. Like, if people are saying you're too much in favor of Luka or too much in favor of LeBron, and it's those fan bases, you're probably playing things pretty much down the middle.
I generally, just as like a general life philosophy, think that words mean so much less than actions in general anyway. Like, I think people always get way too worked up on what people are saying rather than what they're doing.
All right, let's go here. Here's another one. Trevor, remember you said you were open to moving LeBron for a lesser talent that fit better because of on-off numbers, and it turns out it was Rui dragging those numbers down the whole time, like a few Lakers fans have been saying for 3 years. Oh, Rui was the cause of LeBron's numbers for all 3 years? No, I think LeBron's been great. I've been talking a lot about LeBron and how good he has been. What I was talking about was in the future. Was a future if you're going to either commit to LeBron long-term, particularly on a big money deal, or could the Lakers as a team potentially be better with a hyper-athletic four that can defend multiple positions that is not as good as LeBron? Could having that skill set make them a better team moving forward? Now, right now, particularly with Austin Reeves out, they've certainly needed what LeBron is bringing. And again, don't hear what I'm not saying. LeBron has been fantastic. There were some stretches earlier on in the season where he looked not nearly as good as he does right now. He's certainly played his way into this shape, this situation that he's in currently, this form that he's in right now. And he's been amazing. And I'm not taking anything away from him. I'm saying in the future, could the Lakers as a team take a step forward if they have a perfectly fitting four, knowing that if you're building around Austin and Luka, you have to have perfectly fitting pieces around them, particularly hyper-athletic defensive players? That's the conversation around LeBron right now. Not you're trying to get rid of LeBron at this moment.
I did pull the numbers just because I was curious. The Lakers are minus 7.8 per 100 possessions with LeBron and Rui on the floor together. LeBron on, Rui off, plus 2.5.
Yeah, it makes sense.
It just doesn't work.
Just doesn't work.
All right. Fate of the world on the line. Your trade predictions. In an NBA that has proven to be unpredictable, as evidenced by Luka Doncic being a Laker, I hope the fate of the world is not on the line based on our ability to predict what trade is or isn't going to happen. But I will say my prediction would be that the Lakers make a trade, but it's more of a minor piece or maybe a pair of minor pieces rather than landing that proverbial fifth starter that we've been talking about.
I agree. My prediction would be either a very small bench trade and or stand pat and sign a buyout guy. What about you, Jovan?
I think I'm just going to let the world blow up here and take the L. Yeah, I mean, I think at this point, well, according to Matt Ishbia, Dillon Brooks is untouchable, and they would not trade him for Austin Reeves. But in all seriousness, I don't see why Dillon Brooks would be on the trade market. Wiggins, I think it's going to partly come down to the direction Miami goes in the next few weeks in terms of how their season is trending. And then Herb, I think, is going to be available. It just comes down to what the final asking price is. Like, I think it's pretty ridiculous to be asking for 2 first-round picks for him. 1, I can get behind, but 2 is just too much. So I guess I would say like Keon Ellis would maybe be my trade prediction, and Sacramento comes off the 1 first-round pick asking price, and maybe LA can do something like Dalton and a second and maybe a future swap or something to get that over the finish line. That would probably be not best case scenario, but plan C maybe for LA. But yeah, I'll say something like Keon Ellis and then maybe another smaller trade that adds another more athletic player.
Herb Jones is shooting below 30% on catch and shoot threes this year, asking for 2 first-round picks and Luka cooked his ass yesterday. So I think asking for 2 first-round picks is kind of ridiculous. I like Herb and he's a good player, and I think 1 is completely reasonable. But yeah,
he's had 2 terrible auditions against the Lakers.
Yeah. What's up? Yeah, he has not looked good.
He went 4 for 14 the first game and then 1 for 9 last night. So he's 5 for 23 in the 2 games. That's
I still
awful.
want him.
Yeah. I mean, especially if it was like I would do Rui in a first for him in a second.
Yeah, I would as well. I would as well. All right, guys. We did it. We got
it's good to see you guys again. We're back at it. And we're
questions.
back at it tomorrow.
That's right.
Back at it tomorrow.
We are back at it tomorrow.
We'll be here in less than 24 hours.
We'll recap the Lakers Spurs game. We'll talk a bit about that and see what develops from there. And who knows? Maybe there'll be an NBA trade between now and then. I don't know. This Trae Young stuff seems to be picking up. We'll see where all that goes. All right, everybody. Thank you guys for joining. Please make sure you do subscribe right here to the channel. And guys, this was a lot of fun. And again, thanks for being so flexible on the schedule this week.
Of course, man. Good to see you guys.
See you guys tomorrow. Let's hope for a Laker win and the 3rd seed overall in the NBA rather than the 6th best record in the NBA or whatever Jovan said it was going to be.
2 or 5, right?
Well,
it depends. Houston and Denver are both playing. There's a chance that I think Houston's going to win. Denver's probably going to lose. They're at Boston. So it's actually maybe 2 or 4, but we'll see. The West is wild right now.
Indeed it is. All right, everybody. Till next time. See ya and stay safe.